Welcome back to part 3 of the Philco Briefcase 19 restore. So let's get started. We had the board out, so let's rebuild it, clean it up. This board does have several wires that connect to it, and unlike the Predicta where the boards are marked where each wire, what each wire does, this one does not have them. Just very few of them that are marked. I took several pictures, so I think we can get everything hooked back up correctly. I think I counted 5 caps that look like these. So we'll get this board cleaned off and put the new caps in. And the 3 networks, here, here, and here. I'll check the tube sockets. They look okay. I think these sockets have the wide division here that connects to the circuit board, so they don't look like they're cracked. So we'll probably just leave those, but I will check them just to be sure. While I have this board out to rebuild, I'll check the 4 tubes that mount on it. I don't think any of the tubes are bad because the set was working okay, but we'll test them just to be sure, and they need to be wiped off, so we'll do that too. All 4 tubes tested really good, as I thought they would. So while I was into it, I went ahead and tested all the other tubes. They all checked good, and so I cleaned them off. Now we're ready to put these networks in. Well, we got our K networks, N networks, cup plates, whatever you want to call them. These are replacements made by the TV restorer guy. And we got 5 different ones. And for what these sell for, you can't really mess with trying to make your own. Plus they look good. They look almost like the originals. Colors are good. So let's get these put in. I had a couple fellas comment on my videos on the Predictas. Said, you know, I'd be afraid to pull this board out and get everything hooked back up right. Well, you want to really take it slow. Take lots of photos of before the board was pulled out. These grounds, I make sure I always clean these off really good, where they're no trouble to just bend back over and resolder. But if you take your time, it's really not that big a deal to pull this board out, put the new parts in, and then put it back in the set. So I got one more ground, or a couple of grounds to resolder. Then I'll hook the wires up and we'll turn the set back on and see if we're working okay. And I wanted to mention, when I put these wires back, I do cut them off, strip them back, so you got a fresh piece of wire coming out. If you try to use what's left of the ones that have been wound around the terminals, they tend to break. Alright, let's see what we got. We're drawing current. About 1.25 amps, and it's dropping back right at 1 amp. And we got a picture. Vertical is locking, horizontal is locking good. So I think we're good on rebuilding that board. Volume control is a little scratchy, so need to work on that. And indeed that does look normal now. Let's see on the vertical settings here. Alright. And there's our linearity. About right. Let's see on the height. Okay. Looks pretty good. Good brightness.
As it happens, I'm a lawyer.
Clean the volume control, so it's good now. Alright, we have one more cup plate to change. It's right here. And this board is going to be harder to get out than the other board because of where it's at. It's down below the IF board and it'll be hard to get to, but I really want to change that while I'm into it. That way all of those will be new. I'm going to take some detailed pictures, close-ups of each connection on this board because there's several on it. Alright, changed the cup plate and a couple of capacitors. This one and this one right here. Excuse my voice, I'm a little hoarse this morning. But in checking the resistors, they all check pretty much spot on, except for these two right here. This first one, it's a red, yellow, which is 220K. And it's reading about 325, so that one's way off. And this one right here, this is gray, red, yellow, which is 820K. And it's reading 1 meg. So we want to change those two resistors. The rest of them all checked within 10%, so we're not going to change any more. But those two will be replaced. Two new resistors in. And when I put in replace resistors, I try to elevate them from the board just a little. Might prevent them from running hot. So there's all the parts we replaced on that board. And I did look at the tube sockets. Didn't see any kind of problems with them. These sockets don't really go bad like the other Predicta sockets. This is made a little different, so these are still fine. Alright, circuit board is finished, so let's get it put back in. Board's back in, so let's get the picture tube over here and hook it up and see if we're still working okay. Looks like we're working fine.
And we couldn't be prouder.
I'm glad I went ahead and changed the cup plate on that last board because, and those caps and resistors, because I did notice the vertical hold responds better now than it did before. It was locking before I changed the parts on the last board, but it's kind of toward one end and now it's right in the middle, so that's a good thing. Glad I went ahead and did that. Do have to make some final adjustments on height and linearity, but we're looking good. The last cup plate we need to change is this one right here. It just goes from the tuner ground over to the front ground. We got that with the kit, so we'll change it too. And I'll give the knobs a good cleaning before we call this finished. one last look. That's rabbit ears only. And of course they're adjustable back and forth to get your better picture. And when you're finished with them, they fold down into the handle. Didn't do any repainting on the metal case of this TV. It's really in good shape. Just a little bit of bubbling right here, probably where you use this on and off volume knob a lot. It's kind of rubbed the paint off, but other than that, it really looks nice. Plastic turned out good. Can you see the place I repaired? Yeah, if I zoom in you can, but it's holding together well. That plastic repair gun done a really super job on that. This terminal, I'll kind of explain how this works. This has 2 leads that go to directly to the tuner, 2 more leads that go to the rabbit ears on top. And if you want to use rabbit ears, you just jumper them together like I've done there. If you didn't want to use the rabbit ears, you would loosen those 2 links and then just hook an antenna directly to the VHF terminals. This set has a lot of similarities to the Predicta series. Circuit board's very similar. Of course, the thin picture tubes. As I was putting those cup plates in the boards, it reminded me a lot of the Predictas I've restored. So Philco, even though they stopped making their Predictas, they used a lot of the technology in this set. A good example of that is adjustments for your vertical height, linearity, and horizontal frequency. They're accessed on this set through the knobs here on top. They have a hose in the center that you can put a screwdriver in and access the back controls for those 3 adjustments. On a Predicta pedestal, you pull the 3 knobs off the front, and then you do the same thing. Use a screwdriver to access the rear of each of those controls to make your adjustments. And of course the 10-ite front implosion shield has that same green looking cast as the Predictas. So they use that on this set too. So I hope you've enjoyed the restore on this 1961 Philco Briefcase 19. See you next time. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, and we'd love it if you would subscribe to our channel. Thanks.